Good evening, everyone. We're ready to get started. Thank you for coming tonight. I think it'll be a very informative session. It always is with what Kim does with the amendments. Okay, Pat, could you come up? Pat's going to do the invocation for us. Please stand if you can.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we are so thankful for this day and this opportunity we have to come together as one voice, or maybe many voices, to be heard about the issues that are facing us, not only in Florida, but in our country. We hope you will give us guidance and wisdom to make the right decisions for the right reasons. It's a very difficult time, I know, for all of us, in looking at some of the constitutional proposals with the amendments. And we also ask for your guidance in that direction as well. In thy name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pat. Okay, Mr. Ballinger is going to lead the parade. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Rhonda Williams, and I will be taking over for David from this point. So what we first want to do is to welcome new guests. So if you're a guest or if you're new tonight for the first time, please raise your hand and let us recognize you. Wonderful. Thank you all for coming. So that you know, we do have this meeting in this venue the second Thursday of every month. With the exception of December, which is our Christmas party, and it's at the Women's Club here in Palatka, but it's still the second Thursday. So please consider joining the club, and if you want to talk to someone afterwards, a number of us would be delighted to speak with you. I also want to welcome our elected officials. So we have Leota Wilkinson tonight, County Commission. Leota. We have Charles Overturf, Supervisor of Elections. We have Phil Leary with the School Board. And then we have some officials-elect. So Brenda Bridges, Brenda, tax collector. And we have Clay Davis, who is coming to fill the very large shoes of Tim Parker for the property appraiser. So, and of course, Tim is our speaker tonight. And then we have a few candidates in the room that we hope it's just a matter of the process, and we won't have to worry about them not winning coming up. So we have Judson Sapp, and we have J.R. Newbold. Where's J.R.? Over here. Now, did I miss any elected or candidate? Okay, good deal. And then, last but not least, I want to recognize our veterans. Without you all, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be working together to make sure that we make sure that this country is hopefully great again with the election of Donald Trump. So if you're a veteran, please stand or raise your hand and let us recognize you. Thank you. Thank you to all of our veterans. We're going to hop right into the program, and so I'm going to call Yoma up, and Yoma can do the introductions, and then we'll be moving on.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for showing up, and it's nice to see some new people here. We hope you come back again. Tonight, we have a very informative session, and that is all about the amendments. And it is my honor and my pleasure to introduce the Property Appraiser of Putnam County, Tim Parker.
Well, thank you for having me out here this evening. As already was mentioned, Clay Davis is here with me, my chief deputy, and he will be taking over from me on January the 7th. Okay, January the 7th. So we are looking forward to that transition. Clay has been in the office for some 24 years and has a good feel for what we do and how we do it, and I'm sure he's going to continue that customer service legacy that our office is pretty much known for. You know, whenever I start doing these amendments or learning about the amendments, I always learn something. And there's so much information out there and really kind of some disinformation that it's going to be interesting as we go through this process. You're the first presentation, so you're kind of like guinea pigs, okay? And if you have some suggestions afterwards, then certainly feel free to get with me and Clay and say, hey, I think I would do this a little bit different or tweak this a little bit different. There's already one video I told Clay I might change a little bit of, but y'all love this one that we're going to watch tonight. So the information that we're going to present tonight pulls from various sources. I pulled some from a website called Ballotpedia, okay, the James Madison Institute, and Florida Tax Watch, just to name a few of the sources. So Florida boasts the greatest number of ways to amend its constitution of any other state. There are 5 ways to get a proposal on the state ballot. There's a joint resolution by the Florida legislature, the Florida Constitutional Revision Commission, citizens initiatives, the Constitutional Convention, and the Florida Taxation and Budget Reform Commission, TDRC. So the Constitutional Revision Commission, the CRC, and the TDRC, they meet every 20 years. They stagger it every 10 years that they meet. In 2022, there was an amendment, if you all remember, to abolish the CRC. It did not pass, so the CRC is still in place. It only garnered 53.9% of the vote. So all amendments, and you'll see on the presentation, have to get 60% vote to pass. Florida Tax Watch had a very interesting observation, I felt like, and so excuse me while I read it, but it says, generally speaking, the Constitution loses much of its significance as the foundational instrument of government when the process of constitutional amendment or revision is used as a substitute for legislation. Incorporating what is essentially a legislative matter into the Constitution undercuts the legislative process and limits legislative responsibility and discretion. So once incorporated into the Constitution, it's very difficult to remove it as a statutory provision out of the Constitution. So Amendment 3 and 4, they do not have to be amendments to the Constitution. They could be acted on by the legislature, and whatever the individuals are requesting could be handled by the legislature. So let's go ahead and get into these. So Florida Amendment 1, Partisan School Board Elections Amendment. So what does it do? It changes the school board elections from being nonpartisan to partisan beginning in November 2026. Okay, in the general election and for any primary elections for that 2026 election. So the Florida Partisan School Board Elections Amendment is on the ballot in Florida as a legislatively referred constitutional amendment and will be voted on November 5th. Okay, this has to be a constitutional amendment. Okay, the legislature just can't decide we're going to have partisan school board races. So what would the amendment change about school board elections in Florida? Amendment 1 would make school board elections partisan beginning 2026. Candidates would be nominated for the general election through partisan primaries and featured on the ballot with partisan labels such as Democrat and Republican. So if you vote yes, you're going to vote to support making school board elections partisan beginning in November 2026 general election and for any primaries associated with the 2026 election. So the supporters of Amendment 1 will say that voters are entitled to as much information as is possible about their candidates and that this increases transparency. All right? The people who are opposed to Amendment 1, that want you to vote no on Amendment 1, are saying that school boards should remain as apolitical as possible. So if you have any thoughts about that, go share them with Phil Leary after the meeting. I'm sure he'd be glad to expand or put a little light on that amendment. There are, multiple facets. We could probably talk about this amendment and the ramifications that it has in our public school system for a long time. But my goal tonight with all these amendments is to present a nonpartisan or a not going to take a side on any of those. Even though I have very strong feelings about some of these amendments, my job is to kind of present the information. As of 2023, Florida was one of 41 states with laws providing for nonpartisan elections for school. Putnam County is very conservative, but one thing that I found when I first moved to Putnam County is that Putnam County on local races votes for the person. And we saw that way out here in the last election. So I think it will change the dynamic of the elections in the future. So if you vote no, you're going to oppose making school board elections partisan, maintaining the current procedures that the school board is operating on right now as nonpartisan. Okay? And again, it's going to take 60% to get this amendment passed on the ballot. And so afterwards, if you have any questions, Clay and I will be here, and we'd be glad to answer those, on a one-on-one type basis. All right, Florida Amendment 2. Right to hunt and fish amendment. So it establishes in the state constitution the right to hunt and fish. The Florida Right to Hunt and Fish Amendment is on the ballot in Florida and will be on there on November the 5th. And what would the amendment do? So the Amendment 2 ballot would measure would provide a state constitutional right to hunt and fish and declare that hunting and fishing are the preferred means for responsibly managing and controlling fish and wildlife and shall be preserved forever as a public right. The amendment would not limit the Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission's constitutional powers. So if you vote yes, you're going to support establishing a constitutional right to hunt and fish. As of 2023, 23 states have protected the right to hunt and fish in some way within their state constitutions. What it would do is it would make it harder for legislators to create laws that would ban or restrict various forms of hunting or fishing. So if you vote yes, you're voting to support putting the right to hunt and fish in our state constitution. If you vote no, then it's going to stay the way it is right now. Okay? So when you vote no, what some of the opponents or people that want you to vote no would say is that a no vote means the state legislature can more easily place restrictions on Florida's hunting and fishing activities. So this does, again, require a 60% vote to pass. Okay? So everybody understands that if you vote yes, it's going to make it harder for the legislature to make changes. All right, the next slide which is the other handout that you received, the legal size one. I don't know if everybody has one, but this is pretty close. I asked Charles, it's pretty close to going to be like true to size. So you can see that there's a lot of language, okay, on this particular ballot. It has, of course, be in 2 languages. But it's good that you have it tonight so that you can kind of read up on it and read what's the fiscal impact is, because that kind of contributes to the additional language that's in Amendment 3 and Amendment 4. Okay, so you have it there in front of you. Part of it reads in the Amendment 3 part, it's going to generate another $195 million in state sales tax. But then when you get down towards the bottom of it, it says that regulatory costs will probably be offset by regulatory fees, and that the last sentence, it may result in generating additional revenue, or it may increase cost in government services. And then on Amendment 4, which we're going to get into these a little bit more deep, but on Amendment 4, the people that want you to vote yes on Amendment 4 were really upset about the fiscal impact statement. So I would suggest you kind of read that, but that last line, the financial impact of the amendment cannot be determined due to ambiguities and uncertainties surrounding the amendment's impact. But mostly what they're saying in that fiscal impact is that they're negative impacts to the state of Florida. So the people who want you to vote yes on 4 really are upset about that language in there. So just kind of be aware of that. So Amendment 3, marijuana legalization initiative. Okay, so this would legalize marijuana for adults 21 years and older. And what would the initiative do? So it would legalize recreational marijuana for anyone 21 and older. Individuals to be allowed to possess up to 3 ounces of marijuana, about 85 grams, up to 5 grams in the form of concentrate. In 24 states and Washington, D.C. Have legalized recreational marijuana. So the existing medical marijuana treatment centers would be authorized under the initiative to sell marijuana to adults for personal use. The legislature could provide by state law for the licensure of other entities that existing medical marijuana treatment centers cultivate and sell marijuana products. So here's a short
Amendment
video.
3 matters to Florida's law enforcement, and it should matter to you. Recreational marijuana in Florida will allow for the purchase, possession, and use of marijuana products for non-medical purposes. Detrimental impacts are likely to be felt, including a surge in the illegal street drug market and dangerous drug dealers roaming our streets without fear, increased crime rates, addictions, traffic crashes, and adolescent marijuana use. Not to mention, these effects come without the benefit of receiving the amount of tax revenue that is being promised by industry advocates. For example, in Colorado, for every dollar of tax revenue equated to $4.50 in costs. The legalization and commercialization of recreational marijuana in Florida will make the Sunshine State the state with the largest limit, allowing an individual to legally possess an amount of marijuana equivalent to 100 joints. That's 3 times more than California and Colorado, giving criminal cartels a key to our streets. The correlation between recreational marijuana legalization and negative impacts on public safety isn't a coincidence. From 1995 to 2018, the average potency increased from 3.75% THC to 15.80% THC. Add on the facts that 48.8% of teen marijuana users admit to driving under the influence, and 1 in 4 road deaths in Colorado involve marijuana. Florida does not have to accept the same fate as California and Colorado. We can keep our communities and our youth safe by keeping recreational marijuana out of the state of Florida. Protect our state by learning the facts, and don't let Florida go to pot.org.
Okay, so they want you, obviously, to vote no on the amendment. So voting no retains the current marijuana law for the state, which does allow for consumption, okay, but that is for medical purposes only. I've not known anybody who is using medical marijuana for medical purposes, but from what I understand, it's not all that difficult to get an order. You can't get a prescription, okay, because it's still illegally federally, all right? Nothing in the law would change, in the statute or the amendment, if it passes, would change that. It's still illegally federally. So a yes vote would legalize marijuana consumption in the state for non-medical purposes.
This year, marijuana is on the ballot.
In Florida, marijuana is already available on the streets. You have no idea what's in it. Amendment 3 fixes that. Most Americans have access to legal marijuana that is regulated and tested for safety,
but not Florida. Most Florida marijuana is illegal
it's produced using toxic chemicals
and can be laced with dangerous drugs like fentanyl. Florida is the home of freedom. Amendment 3 gives adults access to legal, safe marijuana and the freedom to make their own choices.
All while generating billions for better schools and safer communities.
While allowing law enforcement to focus on serious crime.
Marijuana is already in Florida. Amendment 3 takes it off the streets.
makes it safe, regulated, and responsible.
Take it from me.
Vote yes.
Vote yes.
Vote yes on Amendment 3. Safe, regulated, responsible.
So they pumped about $11 million into that campaign, to get that passed. They say that the increased sales from recreational marijuana would significantly add to tax revenues. And it's just like, okay, who do you believe? It's going to increase revenues, yeah, but what's the side effect? You saw on the other, they vote no. For every dollar you get in revenue, you spend $4 to fix the things that marijuana causes. So this does not require a constitutional amendment. Our legislature could implement this to any degree that they wanted, but they've chosen not to. Therefore, whatever citizen group is behind it has got the signatures and got it on the ballot. Right now, we have jobs open in our office, and we have a very difficult time filling those positions because a lot of our positions are kind of specialized. But we do test for marijuana, and if you get test positive, you're not working for the property appraiser's office. You're not working for Putnam County. So it really kind of is going to, decrease your work force, or it's going to make it more difficult, let's put it that way, to hire the right people for the right job. All right, Amendment 4 is the right to abortion. So a yes vote on this amendment would legalize abortion in the state of Florida before the period of fetal viability or when a healthcare provider deems it necessary for the safety of the mother. Fetal viability, or when a baby is estimated to be able to survive outside of the mother's uterus, is generally assumed to be around 24 weeks into pregnancy. Going backwards a little bit, the medical marijuana was adopted in Florida in 2016, and it passed 71-29. So what does Amendment 4 do? Okay, it provides a state constitutional right to abort before viability. What would the initiative do? It would provide a constitutional right to abortion before fetal viability, estimated to be around 24 weeks, or when necessary to protect the patient's health as determined by the patient's health care provider. So here's a little clip that we found.
Members of the Florida Democratic Party are wearing pink on day 3 of the Democratic National Convention in support of abortion rights. This comes as Floridians are considering extending abortion rights statewide this November. Floridians will be voting on Amendment 4 this fall, which would extend the right to an abortion beyond 6 weeks, which is the current state law. If passed, Amendment 4 would make abortion legal through the 2nd trimester and beyond. in cases where the mother's life is in danger.
I feel like this amendment affects everyone in Florida, regardless of whether you're a woman of childbearing years. And we all need to care about freedom and fundamental rights.
Notable Florida Democrats, including former U.S. Representative Ballot Amendments, believe basic constitutional rights includes a woman's right to choose.
Men and women in Florida believe that your basic constitutional rights include a woman's right to choose, and they're going to stand in line at the polls to vote in favor.
With Vice President Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket, it makes supporting this amendment that much more important for some voters.
It is so exciting to have a woman at the top of the ticket, and not just any woman, but Kamala Harris, who has such an inspiring background, and I really do hope that that will galvanize women to come out and vote for Kamala Harris, as well as the important issues on the ballot.
Many Florida Democrats believe this is a nonpartisan issue, which will have an impact on all Floridians.
Florida women do not believe that government or church should interfere in a decision that is between myself, my family, my spiritual counselor, and my doctor.
The constitutional amendment requires 60% of the vote for it to pass. In a recent poll done by Florida Atlantic University and Main Street USA, it shows that 56% of Floridians are in favor of passing Amendment 4, while 23% are unsure how they will vote. Reporting live from the DNC in Chicago, Charlize Ramos, WUFT News.
Hey, Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill known as the Heartbeat Protection Act on April 13, 2023, designed to ban abortions once a fetal heartbeat is detectable at around 6 weeks. That law was set to take effect in the Florida, if the Florida Supreme Court rules that a previous signed bill by DeSantis in 2022, creating a 15-week abortion ban, is constitutional. Prior to this law taking effect in 2022, abortions were legal in Florida until 24 weeks. So the supporters of the amendment say that this is crucial to guarantee Florida's right to an abortion. Those who are opposed, it says it's not necessary to enshrine any right to abortion into the state constitution, since the state legislature already has the ability to vote and regulate the procedure. So this procedure, or this amendment had to be on the ballot because it had to be, if you wanted to pass, you had to, it could not be just put on there. It could be put on by the legislature, but it has to be something that we vote on in order to enshrine it into the Constitution.
Bait and switch, sleight of hand, smoke and mirrors, all deceptions that make one thing seem like another. Like Amendment 4, an abortion amendment that's much more extreme than at first it seems. Here's Amendment 4, and here are other amendments from years past. Most provide detailed definitions of essential words, so voters know what they're voting on. So how many definitions does Amendment 4 provide? 0. This small trick is a big scam. Amendment 4 says no law shall restrict abortion before viability, but never defines viability. It allows late-term abortions for a patient's health, but never defines patient's health. It allows so-called healthcare providers, not doctors, to define these terms, but never defines healthcare provider, a term broad enough to include non-medical staff at abortion clinics. Just as bad, Amendment 4 eliminates Florida's parental consent laws, replacing consent with notification and making abortion the only medical procedure a minor could undergo without a parent's consent. They didn't have to write Amendment 4 this way, but they did. Why? Because they want to deceive you, to make their extreme amendment seem reasonable. This is what Amendment 4's ballot summary says. But this is what it means. No law shall prohibit any abortion at any time for any reason determined by abortion clinic employees. This amendment makes abortion the only medical procedure your child can undergo without your consent. It sounds extreme because it is extreme. No definitions, no doctors, no parental consent. Amendment 4, way too extreme and not what it seems.
So if this measure passes, it would overturn Florida's 6-week abortion ban and replace it with legalized abortions up until fetal viability or to protect a patient's health. So voting yes supports establishing a constitutional right to abortion before fetal viability. And if you vote no, you're opposing it and keep the 6-week ban in place right now. Okay, Florida Amendment 5. I told Leota I was going to be talking about her, and I guess it applies to Phil too. So what does Amendment 5 do? So as of 2024 in Florida, property tax, or the millage rate, was set by county, school districts, cities, and special districts. Homes in Florida are assessed at just value, which is market value, minus the homestead exemption. The homestead exemption reduces the taxable value of your property. So for every primary residence is eligible for a $25,000 homestead exemption, which exempts that amount from all taxes. Another $25,000 homestead is applied to a homestead's value between $50,000 and $75,000, which exempts the amount from all taxes except for school taxes. So the amendment would provide for an annual inflation adjustment for the value of the homestead property tax exemption that applies to non-school taxes. The adjustment would be made every year on January 1 based on the percentage change in the CPI reported by the Department of Labor, if the change is positive. If it's negative, it doesn't go down, you still keep that $25,000 second exemption. So it also creates, according to Florida statutes, the legislature appropriated funds to offset revenue losses experienced by fiscally constrained counties, resulting from the annual positive inflation adjustment. So Putnam County is what we call a fiscally constrained county. Okay, there are 29 fiscally constrained counties in the state of Florida, and fiscally constrained, generally speaking, has to do with the amount of taxable value your county has. Now that's set at $5 billion, and we're above that. Okay. But there are some other factors that go into that calculation. And at any rate, so if this amendment does pass, we would get back 95% of the impact that it would have on our ability to raise revenue. But that's not necessarily true across the state of Florida. I mean, there's 67 total counties in the state of Florida. So if you vote yes, you're going to support making that annual inflation adjustment, and it'll help on your property taxes. But, you know, if the taxing authorities get to a point where they have less revenue, I don't want to put words in Leota's mouth or Phil's mouth, but government has a certain amount that they want to operate off of. And so just because someone's going to get a tax break over here doesn't mean that somebody else is going to have to pay for it. Okay? So whenever someone gets a break, someone else is going to pay for it. Or government is just going to raise the tax rate to generate the same amount of revenue that they would get under normal circumstances had the amendment not been in place. So, for example, if the second $25,000, which is on the value between $50,000 and $75,000, so if you have a home worth at least $75,000, you're going to get that second $25,000 exemption. So if the CPI was 8%, okay, your exemption would go from $25,000 to $27,000. So you'd save $20. Okay, $2,000 times the millage rate equates to $20. So a yes vote supports an annual inflation adjustment to the amount of the assessed value that is exempt from property taxation, and a no vote opposes that annual inflation adjustment to the property tax exemption. Okay, Amendment 6. This was put on the ballot, or I think promoted by Senator Hudson. So what it does is it's a repeal of a constitutional provision providing for public campaign financing for candidates who agree to spending limits. So what would Amendment 6 do? We would repeal Section 7, Article 6 of the Florida Constitution, which provides for public campaign financing for statewide candidates who agree to spending limits. Currently, under Article 6, public campaign financing is available for candidates for the office of the Governor, Attorney General, Chief Financial Officer, and Commissioner of Agriculture. Qualify for the financing, the candidate must not be running unopposed, agree to expenditure limits, raise $150,000 for gubernatorial candidates or $100,000 for cabinet candidates, and limit loans or contributions from the candidate's personal funds to $25,000 and limit contributions from PACs to $250,000. Report campaign financing data to the Division of Elections and submit to a post-election financial audit. This is funded from the General Revenue Fund. And in 2022, expenditure limit for the gubernatorial candidates receiving public campaign was $30.29 million, $2 per registered voter, and limit for cabinet members was $15.4 million, $1 per registered voter. So if you vote yes, you're going to support repealing the state constitutional provision that provides for the public financing. So I kind of heard about this, and I was like, I think what I read was it's designed so that if Tim Parker, who has no recognition across the state of Florida, decides he wants to run for governor, that there is a fund out there that could potentially assist me in running for a statewide office. Okay, they don't care about local campaigns, primarily focused on statewide. So the people who are supporting getting this passed would be, they're saying getting rid of public financing will lower taxes for Floridians and allow general revenue funds to be allocated to other important issues in the state. The people who are opposed to this amendment passing say that by giving money to candidates that may not already have money or the capacity to raise sufficient funds, the measure can effectively level the playing field for aspiring office holders that lack political and financial connections. So this does require a constitutional ballot to be, it does require a constitutional amendment in order to get changed. So they have on the Division of Elections website the amount of contributions and who they went to. And so I pulled that up, and there were about $13 million in funds. It could have been $30 million, but only $13 million was actually claimed. And I said, well, who claimed those campaign financing dollars? So in the governor's race, Governor DeSantis claimed $7.3 million of it. Charlie Crist claimed almost $3.9 million of it. And Nikki Pride claimed almost $1 million of it. And so it's a little confusing to me. It just seems like those individuals are going to have enough resources to fund their own campaigns without pulling money out of the General Revenue Fund. But I looked back to a couple of the other elections, and I didn't see any names that I really didn't recognize. It's kind of interesting in the Commissioner of Agriculture race. No one claimed any of those funds. I think there was that was the Attorney General, Bill Simpson, and I forget the other person's name, but they didn't use any of the funds to run their campaign. So, as Charles would say, no vote opposes repealing the constitutional provision that allows for public financing, therefore continuing to allow that public campaign financing for statewide candidates. So as Charles would tell you, the general election is Tuesday, November 5th. Please come out and vote, and you can vote early. And thank you very much for taking your time this evening and listening to our presentation. And like I said, afterwards, Clay and I will be here. If you have some questions, be glad to answer. But thank you.
Thank you so much. That was so informative, and I know everyone enjoyed hearing it. What we'll also do is know that the Republican Party of the state of Florida has a piece that they put together on their suggestion on Republicans and which of these we should vote yes and no for. And so what we'll do is email that out to everyone rather than discuss it here. We'd be glad to take that piece and mail it out to you. So look for that coming up soon in your emails. So early voting. If you guys will mark on your calendars, early voting is October 21st to November 2nd. Is that correct, Charles? Yes. Remember, we have the 3 locations. Get yourself to the polls, grab your next door neighbor, grab a friend off the road, grab a stranger, drag them to the polls. We need people to come out. I think we only had, Charles, total, was it 41% turnout? Yeah, so we need a lot more coming out to the polls for November for sure. And then November the 5th is the election. We want to give a couple of other quick updates. I don't know if any of you saw this, but the governor signed the rural infrastructure funding. It is for roads, I believe. Leota, do you want to come up just quick and give a quick update? Because it's very interesting, and I know I'm putting you on the spot. I'm sorry.
So I was trying to look, I responded on Facebook about this actually. But, so basically what it is it's 2, 4 point something, let me get it right here. Okay, so this is for 2 specific projects. One of them is the resurfacing from County Road 315 from 310 to State Road 20. So that's $4.3 million. And the other portion of that 9.1 is $4.8 million, which goes from County Road 315 from the Marion County line to County Road 320. So all of those roads will be resurfaced, and basically the county applies for a state grant. We were awarded that grant through this, through DOT. It goes through their budget. However, the county will be responsible for soliciting the bids. So that's how it works.
So we can thank our current reps, Bobby Payne and Tom Lee. The governor signed $122 million in the rural infrastructure, and Putnam County actually received the most money of any county that qualified at the $9.12 million. So please, next time you see either one of them, give them a handshake, pat them on the back, tell them thank you so much. And we're hoping that we have Mr. Sapp, who will serve us equally as well as Bobby Payne has for the last 8 years. So thank you for helping me with that quick update, Leo. We appreciate it. Membership dues are coming due in January. Please, anytime between now and January, if you'll pay your dues, you can pay them to Bob. If you're new and would like to join, the good news for you is you could join today or anytime between now and the end of the year, and that $25 fee actually covers you over through the end of next year. So you get a couple of months in there sort of for free. We have some upcoming events. So we have on September 15th, just in a couple of days at the Presbyterian Church, we have the Constitution 250. If you've gone to that in the past, it's been delightful, so please mark your calendar and consider doing that. The other event that we're doing is the Trump sign waving. We're going to do it 2 days, October the 18th and November the 1st. Be on the bridge. So on this side of the bridge, we will put out some emails with that information, and we'll be doing some Trump sign waving, 3 to 6 p.m. And we do have some signs up front. If you'd like a sign for your yard, $20, and you can take 1 or 2 of those puppies home and get them in your yard. We will also provide some Trump signs for the sign waving though, for these 2 days. Wear your colors, wear your bling. If you don't have bling, see Miss Ann Miller. Miss Ann Miller has lots of bling. And then we're also doing, everyone's having a yard sale, Pomona Park, November the 2nd. We will have, like we've had in the past, a tent up there, and we'll be speaking with people coming by to be, of course, just days before the election, so we're hoping to encourage people to get out and vote. Last year, I think, or the last election cycle, I think we actually encouraged people to leave from Pomona Park before they went home from the yard sale and go to the Crescent City location and vote. So before they forget about it or something else happens. Yoma, you want to come up and let's talk about our October speaker.
Thank you, Rhonda. And I also want to thank Tim Parker. Thank you. You did a great job. A lot of good information there. Some of it's pretty tricky though. Okay, in October we have finally been able to arrange for the judge candidates to come in. We're going to have Alex Sharp and Judge Janusa. And they're going to come in, they'll be here at 6 o'clock. We won't start the meeting because it's also a nonpartisan thing, so they cannot participate in any political meetings. So what we'll do, and it's so brilliant, we've been thinking about this since last March and finally figured it out. We just won't start the meeting. And then, give them as much time as they need and maybe start the meeting, maybe not. But that's what we're going to do next month. That'll be 10/10. We have our board meeting on the 3rd at Rhonda's, question mark, at Rhonda's house. Everybody knows where Rhonda lives, right? You just gave me a yes. All right. Pizza Boys. Oh, I love those Capones. So we're going to have the board meeting at Pizza Boys, and that'll be October 3rd. That's Thursday. And pardon? 12 o'clock if you want to eat. The meeting will start at 1, and it's open to any of our members that wish to come and listen in. So that's what we got going in October. And in November, I've got a gentleman coming in. He travels around the country. He travels around the whole country, and I've been working on getting him in. His name is Lawrence Spivak, and he's got a bunch of stuff he wants to talk about, political, and he talks to a lot of women's groups. So that's what's happening. And of course, in December, we have our Christmas party. And anybody who wants to get on the Christmas party committee, please let us know. We would really appreciate some help and some ideas. And also, one more thing. I know it's early, but I just got an email from Samantha. She does the fairgrounds. She runs the fairgrounds. And this year is, it'll be 2025. It's the 75th anniversary of the county fair. And the theme is Denim and Diamonds. So, yeah. All right, and that's about it. And I'm really glad everyone could come this evening. And Rhonda, take it from here.
Thank you. One last announcement is in November of every year, this club elects new officers. So please pass the word. If you are a current member, please be in attendance for the November meeting when we hold our election of officers, and then they take their positions immediately. So that's all we have for this evening. So glad you all came out. Please come next month if you're interested in hearing the judges. It was a little bit of a tricky issue to get them both here. They have both agreed because I think there's only 2 forums coming up, Charles, is it? Public forums. One is the Willaca Women's Club, Carson City Women's Club, and one is the Women's Club here in Palatka. So look for those dates on Charles's calendar on his website, but those are the only 2 public forums, and so we wanted to be able to hear from the judges. And we will, so that you all will know, because one of the other requirements was that we put a notice in the newspaper that it would be a public forum, so that it would be open for someone to come in. Otherwise, the judges are not allowed by their canons to be able to come, and we thought it was important that they come and speak. So we'll be making that public announcement as well. So that is all for our meeting tonight. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to go ahead and adjourn and then hold our raffle. So if you have raffle tickets, you can pull them out. Our meeting is adjourned, and we can turn off our feed. Know that if anyone has missed a meeting or like this meeting, know that David, it takes him a lot of time. I think it takes